Hey, welcome to Forest County, Pennsylvania, and the Forest County Outback Channel, where we combine history and the outdoors. Now, in the previous episode, number 20, we hiked down to Little Coon Creek, and we examined some remnants from the early logging days. Now, today, as promised, we're headed back to Little Coon Creek, and we're going to look at an early oil lease that has some neat equipment that was left behind. And on the way there, we're going to stop at Nebraska Bridge, and I'm going to briefly try to explain the phenomena that is Nebraska Bridge. And on that segment, let me apologize ahead of time for the audio. There was a lot of wind that day. I didn't realize it, and it's one of those technical things we need to work on. Anyhow, this is Forest County Outback 21, Fox Creek Junction, Part 2. This is an explainer about Nebraska Bridge. Now, some of you may notice on some of the videos, I tagged a little clip of Nebraska Bridge underwater. And if you're not familiar with this area, you may not know what that's all about. You know, it's like, okay, oh, there's a bridge. It's underwater. They must have had a flood. Well, I'm going to explain the story of Nebraska Bridge and how this 90-year-old structure has attained celebrity status. Okay. All right. This is Nebraska Bridge in low water. Now, the town of Nebraska was founded here along Tynesta Creek around 1830 or so. And this was always kind of an isolated location, so the town never got very big, but it was thriving. And the heyday of it came around the late 1880s to 1917. And at that time, Teddy Collins had established the headquarters of his empire here. Now, there was also a very large sawmill located down in that direction. There were also a couple of barge yards here. They built flatboats and wooden barges and floated them out to the Allegheny. The S&T used to come through here. They had some freight yards here and a roundhouse and some maintenance shops. Now, by 1917, they had cut all the virgin timber, and the mill closed down, the barge yards closed down. The railroad eventually stopped running here, but the town managed to survive, and it wasn't as busy as it was, but it was, you know, a nice little community. There was probably, if my figures are right, probably about 300 or so people who lived here at that time. Now, unfortunately for Nebraska, there had been several devastating floods downriver along the Allegheny, Ohio, into the Mississippi. And in the 1930s, the federal government got into flood control in a very big way. So the Corps of Engineers started construction on Tynesta Dam about 5 miles downriver in 1938. When they finished it in 1940, Nebraska was in the flood zone. So the government came in, they bought everybody out, basically forced them out, and demolished everything except for the bridge. Now the normal pool is actually a little lower than this, and during the summertime there's a lot of through traffic here. This is a popular fishing spot. There's a boat launch here. Now during the winter they raise the pool up, or we have a lot of rain and they have to hold water back, they'll raise it up and the bridge gets flooded. And this intrigues people. You know, the bridge is flooded, then it's not. Then it's flooded, then it's not. And for some reason, people just like are fascinated by that. And this became a local tourist attraction. Now with the internet, this bridge has actually become kind of a regional tourist attraction. And there are actually 2 Facebook pages dedicated to this bridge. One is called Nebraska Bridge, and the other is called Is Nebraska Bridge Open? And that's kind of a take on the question, is Nebraska Bridge open? That can be one of the most annoying questions you will hear, because people keep asking it all the time. Now you can just go on the internet and find out. And it's actually more than a regional. There are people who vacation in the area, and you know, sometimes it's like they want to go see Niagara Falls and Nebraska Bridge. So that's what the whole thing is about. And you know, just something to have fun with. And so let's get back down into Little Coon Creek and look at that oil lease.
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, this is our first artifact. It's just amazing the condition. I mean, you gotta figure this has been sitting here probably since 1940. Close to, or you know, around that time period. And I mean, look at the condition of the metal and this cable. I mean, I mean, it looks, yeah, that's just amazing. I'm surprised that they would just leave something like this here when they were shutting down the lease, that they wouldn't take that with them. Okay. Now we gotta head that way. This is a boiler that was used to power a drilling rig. I've got a copy of an old catalog from 1880s, I guess. I can't remember for sure. And it has, they sold a complete drilling outfit. Everything you needed to set up a drilling rig. And they have a illustration. And it's not exactly like this, but it's very similar. So it's interesting there, you can see the firebox, how it was lined. And there used to be some bricks sitting on top of this, but apparently somebody's taken them as souvenirs. A couple other chunks of metal that used to be here that are missing now. This was a transfer pump, and it ran off of natural gas. The tramway was down there. Now these are the cool things here. They were being used for stock tanks. And you will see these around the woods in different places. You know what, this one's rolled further downhill since the last time I was here. You used to be able to look through the manhole there. Now let me give you some background on these tanks. If you think you're seeing the roots of a modern tank car in these, you're right. When oil was first started being produced in volume in the 1860s, there really wasn't a good way to transport the volume of oil that was being produced. The first solution was to make barrels and transport it in barrels. It was limited what you could transport, and it was a very inefficient system. So they eventually developed the round wooden stock tank were used in the oil fields, and somebody got the idea of putting two of them on a rail car. And that, you know, was a better system, and it worked for a while, but ultimately it was an evolutionary dead end. In the 1880s in Titusville, they began to develop these things here. These were called iron boiler tank cars, and they were placed on a flat rail car with a special cradle, and they were strapped down. And it eventually evolved into the modern tank car. Now what happened as time went on, the design of the tank cars became advanced, and these really became obsolete to be used on rails, or at least on the main lines. And what happened with a lot of them is they were brought out to places like this and used as stock tanks. And you know, I know of a few of these scattered around the woods, and the lease, I believe, the fact that these are here indicates to me that the lease probably operated through the Second World War into the 50s, maybe even early 60s, because during the Second World War, if they weren't being used, they would have been scrapped and used for the war effort. So the fact that they're still here indicates that this lease was still functioning through the 1940s. Now we got one other thing to look at up here, and then I need to start heading back to the truck. It's getting late. I spent a little more time down here than I thought. So here we have the central power, the engine house. It would pump several wells at one time. We've looked at these before. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6. Okay, looks like they were pumping at least 6 wells off this one powerhouse. Hey, one final note on this lease here. It was owned by Teddy Collins, and around, I want to say 1900 or so, they ran a pipeline down to Nebraska and were supplying the town with natural gas. And sounds pretty cool, right? Well, there's a thing about lease gas. It never runs out or freezes in July. It does it in the middle of winter when it's 10 below. There's a 30-mile-an-hour wind ripping across the ridgetop, and it's the middle of the night. Ask me how I know about that. They had the added thrill of fluctuating pressure. Sometimes the gas, they didn't have the regulators back then, sometimes the gas would just be a little flicker coming out, and sometimes it would be they would get overpressure, and a jet would just be shooting out of whatever they were using. And this actually bit Teddy Collins in the rear. His house burned down because of that, because of an overpressure. And he immediately had the house rebuilt. And from what I read, he was absolutely was adamant that the new house be exactly like the old house. So, you'd have thought he might have used it to upgrade a little bit, but no, he was I guess, he could be a real character. So, that's it for Fox Creek Junction. And like I said, we'll be coming back here. There was a lot more on this stream. So we will be back. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And subscribe. We want to hit that 500 subscriber thing here. Help me out. And catch you on the next one.